Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. My name is Gabriel Cox and I equip first-time supervisors with necessary leadership tools. Before we get started, I would like to invite you to head on over to my website and subscribe for a free resource. The ultimate guide to identifying what type of leader you are in 5 easy steps. While you are there, you can check out my Goat Locker, which is a place where you can get free tools to help you develop as a supervisor. Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome to this podcast. Today I want to talk about how to motivate the unmotivated, which is a pretty interesting topic when you think about it. You may have run across this employee, the person who just doesn't show up on time, maybe they don't care about their work, whatever it is. But today I want to give you some tips on how to motivate these individuals and make them part of their team and get them back to doing what they want to do and what you need them to do. So, recently I've noticed a lot of folks come in and they just say that their team is just not really bought into what they're doing. And so they're really not motivated. And it would be great if everybody on your team were motivated, as motivated as you are. But managers are having trouble engaging their team members. And that can create a lot of frustration and anger, to be honest with you, with the manager. So in most cases, you can't just terminate this employee because they do just enough to get by without grounds for termination. So you have to manage these employees. So a lot of these non-engaged employees are going to be the ones who call in sick. They always show up late. And when they're at work, they just don't care. They do just enough to stay out of trouble. And so why are these employees unmotivated? What's causing this? Well, there's a ton of reasons, and no one person is the same. But some of the most common ones that I've heard are that they see the bad side of everything. There's no good. Every day they come to work and they hate it and they act like they're at the effect of whatever they're doing without realizing, hey, I do have options. But they only see the bad side. Another challenge that these unmotivated employees face is that they set unrealistic goals. And so they set this big goal that they haven't thought out a plan for, and it's totally unrealistic. And so when it doesn't come through, when they don't meet that goal, they get down or they get upset or angry or start to blame other people again. The next thing that I've noticed is that they don't seize the opportunity. They don't take advantage of training. They don't take advantage of learning experiences, whatever it is. They do not seize the opportunity to move forward, and so that demotivates them. And to be quite honest with you, a lot of these unmotivated employees are just not willing to work hard. They don't see the importance of a good hard day's work, and so they're just not willing to do it. They'd rather just count the time until they get off to go home and play Fortnite, whatever it is. And finally, another big one that I've heard is the blame game. Again, they are at the effect of something. They're going to blame you. They're going to blame the work. They're going to blame the weather. They're going to blame whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but they are going to blame somebody. And so why do you as the manager care? Why does this matter to you? Well, your ability to overcome this challenge is going to set you apart from every other supervisor at your company. People will want to work for you. They will come to work excited, motivated, and that will set you apart from everyone else. I cannot stress that enough. And that boosts your confidence. It makes you feel like I am this boss that I've always wanted to be because people are motivated to work for me. You'll also notice that teams are more productive and the retention rates are higher. Now, one of the biggest challenges I've heard, I like to talk to a lot of small business owners. And the biggest challenge that most of them face is how to attract and retain quality employees. They'll spend time training up an employee and just to have them leave. It doesn't matter what it is. So when you're finding people's motivation and you're moving them from unmotivated to motivated, you're going to notice that your teams are productive. You're able to keep your employees more often, keep them on staff longer. And you're also going to be able to attract quality employees. And this becomes big when folks do decide to move on. And of course, you can't forget the fact that you look like a rock star. And a lot of us, we want to feel confident. We want to look good in front of the boss when the boss comes around, and that's completely understandable. But you will look like a rock star if you are able to motivate and do all of these things that I'm talking about: production, retention rates, attraction to the jobs, things like that. You're going to look like a rock star. And so what can you do about this? Well, today's podcast is all about giving you some steps and some challenges to motivate the unmotivated. So for the sake of this podcast, we're going to assume that all your employees are reasonably talented, meaning that they have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do the job. This doesn't mean, the folks that are on the tail end out of the company or they are being removed in the future. I'm not speaking about these people. We're just going to talk about the folks that are good to go. So 4 ways to motivate people. 1, you always have to start with buy-in. And that is included in that is getting to know your team as individuals. This can be very challenging. And often, times a lot of folks will say, well, I don't want to get to know my team, or maybe that's a bit unprofessional. I'm not speaking, about getting to know too much about their personal lives. I'm talking about what motivates them. You want to start this out with small conversations. This doesn't mean go that you see an employee over by the water cooler and you intentionally go over and you tell yourself, I'm going to have a 15-minute conversation with this individual because Gabe told me to. I'm not saying that. These conversations are going to be small because you have to establish trust. So finding out what motivates your team can be a difference maker. What motivates your employee? Sorry about that. What motivates your employee? Why are they here? Why did they choose this job? It doesn't matter what company you work at. They chose you over someone else or for some other reason. It could be, well, this job was closer than the other. Well, what motivates them? What are their likes and dislikes? What are their strengths? And most important, and also equally important, is what are their challenges? What challenges do they face? What challenges do they see? What are their communication styles? All of that stuff. I hear a lot of people talk about introvert, extrovert, and while that is a very interesting way to look at things, there are strengths and challenges for both introverts and extroverts. And if you know me, I'm a bit of an extrovert. And I kick in the door and I run into the room and I say everything and then I leave, or I stick around and pick up all the pieces. Whereas other folks come in and the introvert folks come in and they think, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing to have because I shoot first and ask questions later. But learn their communication styles and find out what they want. What do you want while you are at this company, at this job? What do you hope to get out of it? All of these strategies are good ways to get to know your team, and it helps to motivate them when you are getting them bought in and you're getting to know them. The next thing I want to offer is that you want to be aware of personal and team dynamics. And what I mean by this is that this is a little bit more about flexibility than anything else. What you want to do is you want to be aware of who you pair when you have to pair your employees up to work on a project or in a work area, whatever. You want to be aware of who you're pairing up. And if you don't know that these two people don't get along, that these two team members don't get along, it's probably not a good idea to pair them up. And if you don't know who to pair up and who doesn't like or does like each other or who doesn't communicate well or whatever it is, if you don't know that, you might want to go back and listen to step 1 again because you have to get to know your team. The other part to recognize, of course, is that pairing up, when working on a team, pairing up as the manager can be challenging. But whenever possible, try it. And if you don't try it, or if you can't see anything, start to brainstorm and think of ideas that you can do to try it. Seek strategies to be able to say, okay, how can I pair up the best team dynamics? I know that this person and this person have 2 different ways of communicating, and that might either work well or not work well given the project. So be aware of your team dynamics and how they speak to, personal dynamics. The next tip I want to offer you is to find the right person, find the right assignment for the right person. I remember one time I was volunteering someplace, and if you know me, you know that I like to be around people, and I like to talk, and I like to get out and jump around and do a whole bunch of stuff because that's my personality type. Well, the assignment that was given to me was to sit in a room and fold a bunch of clothes all by myself for 8 hours. And you can imagine that lasted about 15 minutes for me before I started to get stir crazy and go a little crazy and start to express that. And, again, I was not motivated to do my job. I'm there to volunteer. Of course, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do whatever they tell me to. But finding the right assignment for the right person. So I finally, being the extrovert that I am, I finally spoke up and I said, hey, you're killing me here. I can't do this for 8 hours. And they were like, what are you doing in this job? Here, go do this job instead. And it was huge. It was a big deal for me because they saw, hey, why are we going to put him in the corner, and let him suffer there folding clothes? So just a quick personal story. But this is important because you want to learn about about your team, about your person, about your team member. You want to take what you learned from step 1, getting to know your team, and use this opportunity to find a job that will fit them. It will motivate them. This will lead to them being more engaged and excited, and they will show up every day, all the time, and in some cases may be willing to work extra. You want to discuss with the employee what could be of interest to them. Again, finding out what motivates them, what they like, what their strengths are, getting them bought in. And I understand, again, that options are not always there, but you look for them at every opportunity, and the employee will be more willing to take one for the team when needed. And again, we understand that not all the jobs are going to be, gumdrops and candy canes, but it's important to say, hey, because I saw you looking out for me 9 times out of 10, I'm willing to take this assignment that I'm not that excited about and not lose too much motivation. I'll still show up because I want to make you proud of me, and I want to continue to have you working for me. That's kind of that dialogue that might be happening. And the final tip I want to give you is to state your expectations. Call this quid pro quo if you want to, something for something. You're engaging your team. You want to engage your team because you care, and that's why you're listening to this podcast. But of course, you're engaging their team because you want them to be productive. You want them to do their jobs. Let's be honest. So make sure that they know that. Hey, I'm gonna look out for you, and this doesn't even have to be spoken. This is more of that. I know that he or she is gonna look out for me, and so I'm going to make sure that I'm working for them. And this is huge. This is the big part. You want to confront the hard stuff head on. And what do I mean by hard stuff? Well, I mean the things like the do's and don'ts. What's acceptable, what is not, is probably the best place to start. You also want to lay out your performance expectations. You will be here from this time to this time. Just make sure that your expectations are clearly set as you're going along. And so, putting a bow on this, in the end, there's no magic bullet for how to cure or how to solve this issue. A lot of folks just come to work unmotivated for whatever reason. But you sure as heck can improve your odds at motivating your team by following these steps. I was reading something earlier, and studies show that nearly 7 out of 10 employees are unmotivated or disengaged. And so increasing your odds using these tools are going to help you be more successful. Your challenges, the challenges that you face motivating your team to success is what being a leader is all about. This is all part of it. So I always like to leave you with a couple questions or challenges, and I've got just that for you today. So what are you currently doing to get buy-in from your team? And as a whole, what are you doing? What are your team's biggest strengths and challenges they face? And you can look at this, again, this is from a whole, right? I want you to look at your whole team and say, hey, what are our strengths? Where do we have challenges? And how can we use those strengths to leverage and overcome those challenges? And then you can also, if you really want to take it another step, you can look at each individual and find their strengths and challenges, like I mentioned earlier. And finally, I'd like to challenge you to push away. What I mean by pushing away is that push away and learn one thing about a team member that can help you to motivate them. That's my challenge to you. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. It's an incredibly important topic, how to motivate the unmotivated. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you are a supervisor who is currently looking for leadership development, log on to my website and click the Work With Me link and fill out the application to qualify. If you know someone who may benefit from this podcast, please share it with them.